We rolling? Okay, everybody, good morning. I will call the meeting to order. Becky, will you call the roll?
I sure will. Jim Sheeline.
Here.
Reed Acree.
Here.
Tom Kitson. Mike Book.
Here.
Jason Anderson.
Aye.
Tom Wilson. And Ally Huss is on Zoom.
Ally's on? Okay. All right, I'll go around the room real quick. Charlie, good morning. Good morning. Reed, do you have anything other than that's on the agenda?
No, sir.
All right, Sheriff, good morning. Paul,
Nothing.
Eric, I'm good. Kathy? Okay. Okay, all right, all right. Amy? Awesome, awesome. Paul?
I came to speak to any questions on my capital asset and the upcoming budget.
Okay, all right. Very good. Dean, got anything for us? Good, all right. I asked Eric. Yeah, he gave me the thumbs up. In fact, he gave me double thumbs up. All right, need approval of the minutes from previous meeting. Everybody have a chance to look at the minutes, any additions or corrections? Hearing none, entertain motion to approve the minutes. Moved by Kitson, seconded by Wilson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. We do have a request, and I apologize to our visitors, observers. I had a request to go into executive session in regards to personnel compensation matters. I entertain a motion to go into executive session. Move, who did that? Oh, Mr. Book moves, Mr. Kitson seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. We will adjourn to the conference room.
You got to have roll call.
Oh, roll call, sorry.
Okay, let's do Jim Sheeline.
Yes.
Reed Acree.
Yes.
Tom Kitson.
Yes.
Mike Book.
Yes.
Jason Anderson.
Aye.
Tom Wilson. Ally. Are you
Yes.
going in? Okay.
So we will be, I can't tell you how long this is going to be, but we'll be back as quick as we can. I'm not thinking it's going to be too awful long.
Ally, they'll call you.
Yep.
Can you take notes? Will you take notes for me?
Ever the Okay, move back into, regular session, and Becky, we have a motion, about executive session and regular session. Becky, call the roll.
Sure. Jim Sheeline,
Yes.
Reed Acree,
Yes.
Tom Kitson,
Yes.
Mike Book,
Yes.
Jason Anderson.
Aye.
Tom Wilson, Ally Hess.
Aye.
Okay, we're back into. Get my green on. Back into regular agenda, and we're at old business. We do not have any old business. We have new business, and that's the budget wrap up, and that's Mr. Reed.
All right. So,
You want to come up here?
oh, I don't care. Whatever you guys want.
I think it'd be better at the table.
Be careful. Jason might just want you within reach.
Oh, no. I like Reed.
Kidding.
I do. Yeah, I've decided to mimic him. Yeah. I want to be like Reed someday. Someday I want to be just like Reed.
There's four of us with that affliction.
You want to turn on your mic?
I made some notes, just to make sure I talk about everything. So, let's first talk about county general and where we're at, right? Talk about the things that will be happening over the next few weeks. You know, first of all, what I'll be doing is I'll be looking at our revenue projections. You know, that was our first meeting, right? Since then, you know, we were kind of coming off a down month when I initially had to have that meeting. So I think our revenue projections are probably a little low. You know, the last 2 months that we've kind of gotten information on have tweaked up back to probably even above slightly where they were coming in before that. So, you know, that's good things in the positive. You know, at the moment, we've got a $2 million gap between asks and revenue projections. I know it sounds like a incredibly large number, but that's not all that far off of where we kind of usually are, right? There's adjustments that we need to make
But
for.
Reed, we still, and one of the things we talked about earlier is that we still have contracts to get through.
Yes,
So
and
how
that's
do you,
coming.
how do you come with a $2 million difference when we haven't gone to the contract?
Well, so other things that we have not done. So revenue projection tweaks, right? Additionally, we will have more and more information regarding property taxes and what we will be able to levy for. We'll have a better understanding of what our new construction numbers are. That gives us better confidence in what our revenue projections can be. You know, additionally with what we also have not necessarily considered in these numbers are transfers, right? That we normally make. Some of the common normal transfers that we put in our budget would be a potential transfer out of capital to fund any gaps, of transfer out of solid waste, right? We have the $2 million threshold that we need to maintain in solid waste. But we also then kind of move what that excess solid waste money is over to county general. All things that will have a better understanding of what that transfer can be as we get closer and closer to the end of the year, because we'll know kind of where we're at, right? So those numbers will get more solid as we move towards October. Another transfer that we have been doing would be public safety. Not only there's the transfer for just the bond payment, which is around $1,015,000-ish. It changes a little bit every year, but that's kind of in the ballpark of where it was. Last year, we also, since we had paid off that interfund loan between capital and that public safety money, that excess that we've got now, we are able to use that to defray some of our public safety costs out of county general. With that, the other thing that I guess I want you guys to continue to think about, and what we kind of started last year, is we have a $1.8 million balloon payment in March of 2029 for one of those bonds. That the plan was, hey, let's save a little bit out of that public safety money every year up until March of 2029, so that we have the ability to pay off that bond at that moment in time. Doing that would essentially free up like close to $500,000 out of that fund that now no longer has to go to a bond payment. If we have to refinance, that's going to be eaten up, right? Some of that, I mean, maybe some of
That's
it we'll get to
$500,000 a year?
a year.
A year.
Well, and that's a year based on like today's numbers. We could also see increases in the sales tax interest rates. Right. Well, that's another piece of this, right? Our interest rate on this particular bond is, I think, sub 4%. If we had to go out to today and go get another bond, it's probably going to be higher than that, right? So that would eat up more of that cost than even potentially this bond was. But if we can save that money throughout those years, we will free up cash flow, free up additional public safety tax money to defray even more costs of public safety out of county general. I guess that is the plan that we're currently on. We can always adjust from that if we need to. But you know, we're at the point where we're probably saving $300,000 to $400,000 at the moment out of public safety this year. This is year one of that process. We continue to do that. By the end of our fiscal year 2029, you know, we will have raised enough money by doing that to pay off that $1.8 million bond. The other piece of that is we're also earning interest on that money that we're saving too. So that's also going into that. So those are some of the transfers that we need to consider to throw in that will obviously reduce that amount. There's adjustments that we will likely make towards you know, the ratio of how we have our levy broken out. I think potentially at the moment there's, and I know we want to start refunding the health department's fund balance. At the moment, I think we have probably extra and more than Kathy even thought we would put in there at the moment. Well, obviously we'll continue to have negotiations with them about what that right number needs to be, but there will likely be some adjustments there that will flow for us to the positive side in county general property tax. Big things outstanding on the expense side, and I think it's already been mentioned, are the union negotiations, right? We've had contact with both unions to start engaging in those negotiations. Generally, the process is the union side comes with their initial ask first, right? And then that kind of starts the negotiation process. But that's kind of a big outstanding that we've got some money in there now. We'll know whether or not it's enough. We'll have a better understanding of if it's enough after that initial proposal from the union side, right?
And when does that process begin?
So it starts off by the union requesting to start negotiations, and I believe the contracts both say like sometime in August. They've reached out to Jeremy, and I don't know if there's actually dates or anything, but
We have the letters, but we don't have dates.
No, yeah, they've submitted their letters. I've responded as well, asking for proposed dates to begin negotiations without a response back yet.
Right.
Yep. But one of those union contracts covers probably close to a third of our people. People are our most, that's where most of our expenses go to, right? Either wages or wage-related expenses. So that's going to be a big piece. The other side of the wage-related expenses, health insurance. We know that we currently have an estimate of what those premiums are going to look like for us next year based on our current provider. I know our insurance committee is looking into other possible options, but that's just not something that we can go, one day, oh, let's just switch it all tomorrow, right? So we need to make sure that we do our due diligence, and we're probably going to have to, no matter what happens, we would most certainly start the year with our current provider and plan for those costs.
This is a question, maybe not for you, but I know we've got a very active wellness group. What kind of cost reductions do we get from our current carrier for having a wellness program like we do? Do we get a significant discount?
I don't know if it's a discount per se. They provide some, it's probably not a discount in our premium per se, but it is something that goes back to the employees for doing certain things, right?
Yeah, so with the creation of our health and wellness program, there's not really discounted to our rates, as Rita's saying, but it does create a wellness fund internally for the committee to use in regard to health and wellness initiatives throughout the county. Such as employees could submit a request for the fund to pay for a standing desk, or other, maybe the wellness committee wants to do, yoga sessions or something of those sorts. Like it just all goes back to the county and its program internally. So they fund that balance due to our participation in the program.
There's no tie to the premium, reducing our costs.
I mean, certainly something that we could look forward as we are
Another
potentially
carrier.
moving to another carrier of,
Yeah.
hey, if we do these things, is there any sorts of?
But as we've worked with them, it doesn't directly reduce our cost, but by the wellness, we have less claims. They've shown us that, serious claims. So therefore, it keeps us lower in the group we're in, which does help us with our rate. Correct, Jeremy?
Yeah, yeah, no, I would say that's 100% true. It's just it's a little, I mean, yes, you can,
It's hard to quantify it.
right. Especially when you're looking at it like as a 1 year or 2 years out thing, right? Like that's probably more of a trend over like a decade, right?
Yeah,
Than
I mean,
anything that we would be able to
We've
see
seen
individually.
it be reduced since we did the wellness, but do we have younger employees? I don't know. I mean, we haven't gone into all.
Well, there's a lot of factors, but I mean,
Well, and there's a lot of pre-screening that, part of the programs is the pre-screening and all those things, which assists our employees, to understand where they're at, from a health standpoint. And with that gives them the ability to maybe get in front of some of those issues where we might have higher claims down the road. So there is some, intangibles there, but it's just, as Reed said, it's a little bit harder to quantify. It's not a direct impact to the rate, but there is some reciprocating, benefits.
Reed, I don't want to interrupt your
No,
the
you're good.
direction you're going in your explanation, but do you have the updated revenue tables that we can look at?
Updated, no, I can have what we looked at.
Back in July?
Yeah.
Yeah, way back in July. In budget terms, that is, that's like 100 years ago.
So a few things with this, I would say our sales tax, that, like you said, this is way back in July. We were coming off June, which I believe was the down month. Because yeah, it was, that was just when the state transferred or switched their payment systems. So we had a down month in June. And so, these revenue projections, especially for sales tax, are probably a little light, both on the sales tax side, and not that public safety is in here, but the public safety tax side. So obviously we're going to reevaluate those. The property tax line, that would probably shift up, due to, potential adjustments to those ratios of, how much, the health department's getting versus how much is highway being funded, right? We control those. There's obviously minimums in certain places that we have to do. Again, one of the changes in this year that's potentially making that number lower than maybe we would have anticipated would be the veteran service officer that we hired, right, based on state mandate. That historically we've never had to fund that before, and so we were never really levying for those costs. And now that we have one, we need to take that into consideration. Part of that consideration would be, you know, maybe I have too much going there at the moment because we've have a decent enough fund balance out of our Veterans Commission fund that, you know, maybe we can kind of do a little bit slower ramp up process to fully funding that, those new costs. I think what I put in here was, hey, I wanted you guys to see like, hey, because of this new thing, it's going to reduce what gets diverted to county general because of those new costs. Again, it could probably be tweaked down a little bit. And so that will be something that I am looking at.
Could you refresh my memory on what is service income?
So that's going to be a lot of different things, right? Most of our offices have some sort of service, but we can go to the detail here. Dispatch, some of the bigger ones, dispatch fees. That is, you know, we supply all of the employees for the ETSB's 911 operations. They have 3 employees of their own, but they do have an agreement with us to provide us some of their funding. They get funding through, you know, taxes on all of your phone, your cell phone bills and everything like that. And we also obviously provide some services to them. You know, our maintenance staff helps with their, obviously like their retaining wall that we had. They do some other things for them. Township assessor reimbursements, right? Our townships are doing less and less of the assessor work, which is falling back on us. We have started the process of kind of managing that out of the assessor's office and then charging some of those townships fees for that. A lot of the state of Illinois reimbursement stuff is kind of wage reimbursement. So whether or not you want to call that a service or not, that's kind of where we have those at least grouped at the moment.
There's nothing, there are a few things here that we could actually change or make an impact to decision. Most of it you can't, but there's a few things that you could, right?
In this, I would say the biggest one that is within our control is this public safety reimbursement, which is Clay and the sheriff's office making agreements with either other municipalities or other government entities where we provide public safety services to them. You know, I think everyone's contract is a little different, but I think, for example, we have an agreement to provide 20 hours of a deputy to be in the area during a week, right? And so they are reimbursing us and for kind of all of our employee related costs for that deputy to be there, as well as a potential vehicle, you know, a portion of a vehicle, right, for that same amount of time.
Did I hear you say something about cell phone tax?
That is something that the ETSB collects. The state collects it on their behalf and then remits it to them. That is something that the ETSBs have. There are restrictions on that. One of the major classifications of expenses that they can use that for is for dispatcher wages. And so obviously since the dispatchers are Lee County employees, they give us some money every month for those wages.
Okay.
And you know, it's not all of the costs that we have for those employees.
Is there any revenue that the county collects for utility taxes.
No, because we don't provide any utilities.
Right, but there's no utility tax that the county, I mean, there's city, I mean.
Well,
cities.
but the cities collect utility taxes for like utilities that they provide, like water, sewer, stuff like that, right? We don't. I mean, the closest thing that we're involved with in terms of a utility would be like internet providing internet, and we don't really do anything other than make it okay for them to lay the fiber and stuff like that.
So there's
They're
no,
doing that
there's
all.
no like natural gas tax in the
No,
county.
no.
Can collect from, but municipalities do.
Only because they're providing the
Not
utility.
natural gas.
No, what, but they don't collect. I mean, I believe like the city of Rock Falls, right, provides their own electricity, right? So
Right,
they
I
would
get
get to collect a electricity tax, a utility tax, but they're providing the service. We're not providing any utility services that we get to collect on.
There's a lot of revenue that Rochelle gets from NICOR taxes and cell phone taxes. I mean, they don't provide those, but they do.
No,
collect
but they created a tax in the government perspective of that. So the city can do that. The county could. You just have to do an ordinance or you have to lay it out to the voters to say, hey, can we create a tax for this?
Okay,
So it's basically a function of jurisdiction.
okay, makes sense.
Another thing, these are not all of the services that the county actually provides, right? These are the services that we provide that actually get to come back to county general. There are a lot of services that we provide that, usually, they're tied to some sort of state statute that then are also like required to be restricted revenue that are then only able to be used on certain expenses. Those are all in their individual funds, right? So just to be clear, we provide a significant number of more services than what is represented right here. But again, usually those are tied to a restriction on what those revenues can be used for in terms of expenses. So they are then kept and maintained in their own funds.
And comment there, we've been, for the last several years, we've been very vocal and encouraging department heads to utilize their restricted funds so that those are used first, and then come back to the general
I mean,
fund. And I think.
Amy's still here, right?
Yeah,
Shout
Amy.
her out. She has been very gracious over the last 2 or 3 years of helping us and thinking about ways. I mean, a lot of offices have an automation fund that is, she is in the process of working on a system conversion that, to me, would qualify as helping her office become more automated, right?
Yep.
And so she is, her employees are having to help and work on that project, test, and do things throughout the year. And so we've been able to use some of that automation fund to defray some of the costs to her employees. And she's been very helpful in getting that set up to make my life a little easier.
So this figure tells us that we've got a 1% reduction in revenue.
At the time that I did it, yes. I mean, again, there are tweaks that need to happen, right? Again, property or sales tax need to be tweaked up. Property tax levy probably needs to be adjusted for veteran service officers and potentially the health department, right? So there will be tweaks upward. I guess the process that I and Jeremy are going to go through, right, we're going to make those adjustments where we can from what we know now, and that process will continue, all the way up until we can't, right? Because we continue to know more and more information about where those numbers are coming in as we get closer, just like we'll know more probably after we have our first meeting with union negotiations. We'll understand where they're starting negotiations are. And so we'll continue to tweak. We'll continue to tweak for property taxes as we know more and more about where our estimated new construction will come in, right? Because that's also a big piece of potentially, you know, we've got a number factored in here for new construction. I believe as a conservative number, we used essentially half of the value of our open permits. And as we get closer and closer to year end, we'll know more and more about what of those permits have been fully brought on board, and we'll know more about what that new construction number will be, right?
Where does motor fuel tax fall into all this?
Not in what you're looking at here. That is directly something that flows into its own fund because it is completely restricted for, and actually IDOT controls a lot of those expenditures in terms of like, basically Dave has to go get approval from them about, hey, this is the project that I'm working, that I
Right.
want to do and want to
Right.
use these funds for. Now, it is, it's not that it's necessarily in county general, but right, we are looking at a new potential highway facility. Motor fuel tax is, you know, that revenue, an allowable expense for that revenue would be the construction of a new highway facility. What we have to probably determine ourselves is, well, you know, with Dave's help, is what can we realistically utilize out of that revenue and still let Dave be able to operate and do the projects he needs to do. And so we then know how much of that revenue can be used for expenses on that new facility. But that, since that is, I mean, we're kind of looking directly at what is hitting county general. That would be in its own fund. There's a county motor fuel tax fund. There's which is a special revenue fund for the county itself. There's another motor fuel tax fund for the townships that we are the custodian for, and Dave kind of manages and oversees on behalf of those townships, but those would be the two motor fuel tax funds that we have.
And
here.
those are restricted funds that the township has to use for roads,
Yes,
right?
yes. And
And-
we just hold, you know, the treasurer is the custodian of it.
I'm assuming that with what gas prices have done in the last 6 months, that fund has got to be building much at a higher rate than it was before.
It's a rather, you know,
Tax is not a function of the cost of gas, though. Tax is a certain, so many pennies per gallon, right? So even if your gas goes from $4 a gallon to $5 a gallon,
yeah, it's
there's no increase in the tax value of that.
So it's not like sales tax, right? If
Yeah.
the value of what you're purchasing goes up, yes, we get more sales tax. This is on the
It's on a
unit.
volume
Yeah,
basis.
it's on a
Yeah.
volume. And so
So-
theoretically, you'd actually expect it to go down, because if the price of gas goes up, anybody that
Yeah.
has
Correct.
the
People are not
elastic,
using
you
it.
know, an elastic demand for gas, you know, they're going to use less of it. And so less gallons will be purchased and the motor fuel tax will go down.
Yeah, you'd
Mike?
expect public transit probably to go up.
Yeah, the overall trend on liquid fuels has been a downward trend, you know, because of the introduction of electric vehicles, efficiencies in cars. That's beginning, well, it's been a huge problem in highway departments, you know, CTA, all that whole budget. You know, we were kind of removed from that budget fight because it's in Springfield, but it's huge when dollars gets diverted to Chicago compared to downstate dollars. It has a huge impact on us.
Yep.
And that has not gone in our favor. So anyway. So I guess at this point, are there specific areas that the committee would like Reed to go over in regards to on anything else on the revenue side? That you guys want to see?
At
Ally?
what point will
Yep.
you, what point will you get this somewhat reconciled to where you think you're comfortable with? those
So,
revenue
yeah, so,
projections?
so we kind of talked about the revenue side, right? We'll also look at the expense side. No one intends to necessarily do this, but there's always like, a little bit of adjustment for double counting that we need to make sure that we're accounting for. For instance, we have an employee where I think we have a few at the moment where a part of their salaries are covered by grants. And so we'll want to make sure that some of those things are being backed out in the appropriate way. Additionally, I know Charlie's got a grant out there, and I believe portion of that is been requested for to defray some salary costs. And so obviously we'll know more and more as I believe they have to come out with that, whether or not we want or not in September. So we'll know more at that particular moment in time. We will do everything that we can to and have conversations with department heads about what adjustments we see that we can make. That's not really we're not really taking anything away from them. It's just hey, I think maybe we're high here. Do you agree? Stuff like that. But at some point in time, when we get it to where we think it is, hey, this is as much as we can kind of squeeze out of it without starting to potentially take away department requests, right? Because what all the department budgets that we had and were presented was, hey, this is their ask that includes any of the new wish list items that they want to have in their budget, right? And potentially we need to start going, which ones can we accommodate, which ones we can't. And we will look to your guys' direction. Obviously, I would anticipate, hey, Jeremy and I could come to you guys with, we see these 5 places where we need to make a decision on which ones we need to accommodate and which ones maybe we can't, and what are their priorities. And so your guidance will be needed in that instance. But from a timeline perspective, we'll have to provide something at least very, very close to being done at the September Finance Committee meeting, right? And then between September and October, any potential minor tweaks that we have. Obviously, not everything will be done, so we won't. The union negotiations will be ongoing, so we'll continue to have to make probably minor tweaks for that and stuff like that. But for then the October meeting, we'll kind of have what we need to set in stone for the finance committee to pass along to executive and then full board.
In both the budget and the levy.
Full budget and levy, right? And then full board will, Charlie's not here, he won't get me on my terminology. I'll say essentially approve it to be held over for the month, right?
Right.
So that then we can
For
approve it in
final
November.
budget
Yep.
approval in November.
Yes.
And the decision when I know it's somewhere in the calendar, the decision we make regarding to the levy, if it has to be above, was it 4.99%?
Yeah, 105%, you have to have a truth and taxation hearing.
Taxation hearing.
Yeah. But we're not anticipating, at least unless things have radically changed, I'm not.
So
we're not
here's,
anticipating
yeah,
that.
so the CPI adjustment this year is 2.6, I believe. So the only way we get pushed above the 5% is if we have quite a bit of new construction, right? And so then we have to have that meeting and we can explain as much as we can about, hey, this isn't really this is just trying to tax all of the new EAV coming onto the rolls basically at the same rate we've been taxing everybody else up into that year. So
And as a reminder, the increase that we get in sales tax and all the other revenue sources does not have anything to do, it's not based, that 105% is not based on the overall budget. It's only on property tax,
Right.
the levy
Right.
that we put on property
Right.
taxes.
So, I mean, I think we've been we were not over the 5% last year, but the previous 2 years, which
Yeah,
it was almost a guarantee because our CPI was above 5% and we could only ask for 5%. So if you even had like $1 of new construction, right? Well, then we have to have a truth and taxation meeting. And we always have some new construction. It can swing dramatically. I think right around that time, we had almost 44 million in new construction versus some of the other years, it was only 7 or 10. I think last year was right around 9 million in new construction. And so what we don't want to do is we don't want to potentially underestimate that new construction because when we do that, that's basically we miss out on that property tax that year and for every year after that, right? So it compounds.
And we've had a little bit of a conversation about this, but where all the projects that have been abating their taxes are coming off the rolls, we don't see any impact from that.
No, usually, because we don't make a whole lot of abatements as the county. Like a lot of municipalities will do an abatement, but my understanding of the way the abatement process works is the value of the project is still on our rolls. What abating it does is diverts the property tax from being collected from that owner to everyone else. So like we as an entity probably still get our tax that we would have normally collected. It's just we've spread it out over everybody else instead of that developer to as a benefit to get them to come and develop something because there will be some sort of economic benefit from them being there. But we as a county don't experience any decrease in what we would have expected for property taxes because of that.
But with every new project where abatements go into effect, there's new revenue that comes because
Yes,
even though
that's the new construction
The
revenue that we would get.
the Lee Ogle County Enterprise Zone only abates 50% of the taxes on most projects. So there's new revenue, but there's 50% abated.
Yeah, and that's just for those specific abatement, those enterprise zone abatements.
But the county participates in
We do. So, I mean,
It's
taking
just
into
for 7 years.
right. Taking into consideration that that's one abatement program that we do participate in. Generally, you're talking about abatements from other taxing bodies that are going to be the bigger, bigger hit for them themselves, not necessarily the county. So just because, the city of Dixon gets into a tax abatement agreement with a developer, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's affecting us. It's affecting the city of Dixon's, taxes.
And we haven't had enough projects, large projects like what you're seeing over in DeKalb County, where it's really affecting their levy, it's affecting their tax rate. It's
in a
affecting-
positive way.
In all in a positive way, absolutely. But that's not been our problem here yet. So, any other questions in regards to revenue issues that you'd like to make to Reed? Ally, is there any questions that you have in regards to revenues? Okay. All righty. Well, we'll take a look at those revenue numbers and we had the projected at 2.9 and then you projected 2.7. So it would be curious to see what the actual, we should be probably a little bit less, but about a 2.8 for the actual for this fiscal year that we're in.
Oh, are you talking about the property tax levy?
Yeah.
I think a practice that we started last year was since we knew we would be below the 5%, we put in the levy more than we actually expected to receive, just so that we did not miss out on any of that new
Right.
construction.
Right. And that always
So-
comes in just slightly lower,
Yeah.
you know, so anyway. And I noticed you had a 2.7 number, 2,750,000, but that should be pretty conservative
Yeah.
of what, you know, so we'll probably see some movement there.
Mhm.
Right, okay. All right, anything on, do you want to go through, on the expense side?
Well, that's what we'll do, and we'll come to you guys when we, maybe when we're at an impasse of
Okay,
where.
I didn't know
where
if
to
there
look.
was
No.
anything you wanted to go over with us today or on the
Just, I
expense
mean,
side or
I just
not?
think the big ones that we have to account for are the union negotiations and the health insurance. Like, those are big potential amounts that we will have to accommodate, right? Like, there's no, I don't want to pay that health insurance premium, right?
Right.
Or no immediate ability to potentially adjust in terms of what our expense structure is for those. So just to be cognizant of those, that they're coming, and we'll have to make accommodations within our budget to account for that.
Okay. Dean, do you have any questions at this point in time? Okay. Anybody else, department heads that are present here? Anybody want to make any comments or questions or anything as we've gone through everything? Okay, all right.
I think one thing I'd like to say, and it's something that we got to think about down the road, but when it comes down to the future, we have to look at our head count. We have to look at how technology, new programs, whatever, as people retire, is it possible that we can really not hire more people?
Yeah, we can use chatbots.
That's just it's just a reality that, what percentage of the whole budget is labor?
70%.
At least.
If you're saying labor and all labor related costs, health
At least.
insurance, FICA, IMRF, yeah.
And everything is going to continue to
least.
increase. And I don't know that we can continue to think of the idea. And although I think it's been great that we haven't gone to having to go to over 5% on the levy, but the cost of employment is high. And Tom has often said, in the private sector, you have to find ways in which to make yourself competitive. And we have to think that way. We have to think, how do we make things more efficient? And how do we keep our labor costs under control? If it's 70% of our cost, we have to really focus on that.
It's our biggest lever.
Well, and that's a challenge, and I'm a broken record in regards to this and always will be. State mandates, and we have to respond. And a lot of time, a lot of ways that those mandates that we get from the state result in higher headcount, because you gotta have people in order to meet the mandates.
That's
And
where we
and
got
that's-
to go to our state representatives, state senator, and state representative, and get these mandates reduced. Got to be
Yeah.
done.
So. All right, anything else you want to cover, Reed?
I don't think so. I mean, just to, like we kind of talked about, my revenue projections are probably overly conservative, right? That's just me. Other things that it doesn't account for.
Well, I'd much rather you be
Yeah,
very
I know.
conservative and rather be the other way, so.
But, the other things there's always potential unanticipated revenues. I think historically we saw that on the permit side, right? That we just don't know. My philosophy in doing all of this is to not count the chickens before they actually hatch, right? Not till we have money in hand. And when those things happen, we can always do a budget adjustment because it's new revenue that we didn't anticipate. And maybe there's a particular ask that the department had that at the moment, knowing what we know right now, we can't accommodate. But maybe permit fee or something comes in, or even sales tax revenue starts coming in way higher than what we didn't anticipate, or something like that. We can always make an adjustment for unanticipated revenue and potentially then accommodate something that we had to leave out of the budget for passing it in November. So
So I think it's fair to say, you know, this budget, every year we say this, budget is tight. This year every year we've watched how the trend going from where we came off of ARPA dollars and where our capital fund, our reserves were at then and where we're at today. It's starting, you know, it's getting to be a little bit different world.
we're gonna see it here when we switch over to capital.
Right.
So, I don't know if we're good with that, we can move on to that.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So what is up on the screen, for everyone? I did kind of an analysis of, hey, what is our capital balance at the end of July? What are known projects that essentially need to be either fully completed or done in the very near term? What is the value of those? To kind of see, hey, what is our, you know, at the end of the day, what is our availability for capital projects? Now, again, this is definitely an over conservative and kind of, I'll say worst case scenario. What this is not taking into consideration, this is looking at, hey, what is our lowest possible cash balance historically every year? That is essentially June 30th, right? That is the last month before we start making some property tax disbursements to our balances. But historically, where we get over the last 3 years is like a negative $250,000 cash balance. We're able to do that because we have we commingle our funds, so it makes it a little easier on us for a cash flow basis. But you know, hey, projects that we know. So the 911 FMD retaining wall, I believe that's actually already done. We just maybe have not been invoiced for it yet, but that is kind of the remaining balance of what we had budgeted for. We have the retaining wall for this building that, you know, it's an estimate, but I believe that is what kind of our current thoughts are on what is needed to accomplish that project. We've got the highway facility where we need to exercise the option to purchase some land for that. And we have our judicial case management software. That's a number that's going to be in next year's budget. We just kind of don't know exactly what it's going to be at the moment. We know we have to complete the project, and we know essentially what the total costs are going to be for that project, but whether or not Tyler sends us a bunch of bills in this fiscal year or next fiscal year, we'll just know when we get closer, right? But that is essentially the remaining cost to complete the project at the moment.
That is, but it's possible that, because I think we talked to Tyler about, Amy, didn't we talk to Tyler about spreading that cost over, because of the delayed date that they got started, that we could actually possibly push this through 3 different fiscal years?
Yeah, I think we were in year 2 of that.
Right.
And yes, so kind of what I'm accounting for is like, hey, we're gonna expend all of the 1.5 million. I just don't know if it's all gonna be, you know, what amount of that is going to be in FY 26 or FY 27. So
Or
I'm just
wait a
assuming.
minute, we're in the second year? This fiscal
Yeah.
year? I thought this fiscal year was year 1. This
I
next one would be 2
believe
and
they're
then
gonna
3.
be done. Yeah, this is gonna be done essentially in January of 27.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Just you, yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm sorry. I was
Yep.
being corrected. Damn
But you know, that's kind of our expenses. Then generally the only income over the last few years that we get into capital are interest income. Hey, so if that all kind of happens, before November 30th. That's our projected capital balance. Hey, we're potentially gonna have another $100,000 of interest income between our low point, the beginning of the year and our low point. And, you know, our current estimate of what we need to maintain within our fund balance policy is 60 days worth of expenses. That $3.1 million is kind of a rolling, you know, I take 13 months worth of expenses and kind of figure out what the average month is and, you know, double it for the 60 days. Again, I'm going to say this is by far the most guarded and conservative and to be within the fund balance policy rule. From a cash flow standpoint, we have about $1 million within capital to pay for projects this year. From my perspective, I anticipate us being able to have revenues over expenses most likely in 2029 to 2030 timeframe, because we know of some rather large projects that will hit our EAV, as well as being able to make that balloon bond payment on one of the bonds for the LEC. So that's when I see potentially some wiggle room, barring any, you know, one-time money. That's where I see reoccurring sustainable revenues increasing that will allow us to maybe not need to be so stretched thin to make these things work, right? Now I think that 1 million number it's low. Like we have more than that to play with. But again, we need to think about it in terms of it needs to be able to fund us through a few years potentially without any, you know, big permit fees or stuff like that coming through. And we need to be very judicious of picking the projects and the capital expenditures that we are going to go forward with, right? What I have here is kind of have got all of the requests from department heads. You know, maintenance, sheriff's office, those IT. Those are the ones where we kind of know about reoccurring projects and stuff, and they're probably a little bit better about being able to forecast multi-year, right? For example, you know, the circuit clerk's office, other than this case management project, don't often have a whole lot of capital requests for us, right? So those will still probably come up from other departments that we'll kind of know about in the year that we need to budget for them, but that's probably the major thing that's left off of here. But, you know, we've got requests for this year of 2.2 million. And so we need to figure out what we can and can't accommodate. I have all of the department requests. And again, you know, I want them to put their requests and wants in here and then be able to advocate for them to you guys. But then at the end of the day, between the finance committee and Jeremy and myself and the department heads, we're going to have to identify what our priorities are and what we can and can't accommodate out of the requested projects. So I have a list of the projects, and if we want, you know, there's a few department heads here that I don't know if we need to go through all of them or if there are ones that they in particular want to point out and advocate for. But I'll let you guys decide if you want to, any of the department heads want to come up and start going through some of them.
Well, the fun begins, folks. This is why you're here. Clay, you're at the top of the list. Let's go through yours. I know you're always at the top of the list. I'm sorry. But,
Well, remember that philosophy, please. As far as, so starting with squad car replacement, I mean, that's one of those things we have to do pretty much every year to, keep vehicles in the fleet, keep them going. We try and retire them at 125,000. So we're just added, we're trying to add a couple spares because we've had some situations where a deputy hits a deer, gets involved in an accident, and by the time you get a new car or get it replaced, I mean, you're out a vehicle for about 3 to 4 months, and it's a specialized vehicle, with a lot of equipment that you can't really just go to Hertz and rent one. So we're trying to keep some spares on hand for when a vehicle does go down, that they can move their equipment and go to another vehicle. The big one is this access controls update. And I think Paul Gorski can tune in on this as well. Since the jail was put in operation in 2019, they've been sending us something about upgrading the system for the last 3 years. We've kind of kicked the can down the road, but now it's starting to, we've had a computer fail that functions to flush the toilets in the jail. That got band-aided back together, but basically this would do all the controls of the jail, upgrade the software, the hardware, and I think add 2 more cameras. But last year, I believe they gave us an estimate in the maybe 140s, and it's like another 100,000 more this year just due to unavailability of getting some of the hardware.
Clay,
Yep.
in this 4-car annual rotation, it's so what you're replacing 4 cars a year? Is that what you're doing?
We try to, but we try and keep a couple spares. Before, there was, when I came on, there wasn't any spares.
Have you ever investigated any options, and I think there are, about leasing vehicles versus purchasing them?
We had, yes.
And
I had when I was at the City of Dixon Police Department, and it wasn't feasible.
it wasn't.
No.
And that was a number of years ago, right?
That was, 3-4 years ago.
I think
We have been, I mean, if we go back enough in the data, I mean, there was a time when we were leasing vehicles. And I
That's when they
think
did that.
about 6 years ago.
yeah. So maybe Jim can speak to it more than me.
Well, that was just something, that was one of the things that under the previous sheriff's administration that we were leasing. Paula did an analysis of the lease costs, and it was much cheaper over a long period of time. I mean, it was not even
cheaper
close.
to buy or
To buy.
To buy.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, as Clay is saying, he's got 2 spares. As you lease, you have to return that vehicle
Right,
from
you
a
have no
lease. You
spares.
can't keep it. Yeah, and we were paying more for a 4-year lease than we were in total to outright buy
Okay,
it.
that's fine. I just.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's
fair
great.
question.
It's
always
a good
to-
question, and it's always out there. It's just, yeah, we've looked at that.
So I guess the main course, and I know Clay cringes as this when we talk, the possibility of, instead of the 4-year rotation, can you squeeze another year out?
If we have, obviously, if we have a squad that's getting higher in mileage but still running well, we'll make that a spare. So that way we can try and squeeze some more use out of it. Yes, obviously. But then we have some that are nickel and diming us, and we know that there's some big repairs, and those are the ones we want to get off the books.
Right. And I know from a policy standpoint, this was a real issue a number of years ago about personal use of vehicles, driving them home? What is your current policy when it comes to?
All the deputies are issued a take-home squad car.
Yeah, I'll
So
take it.
they come on the air, and they're on duty from their residence, and then they go off the air, off duty at their residence. But there's no other personal use of the squad cars.
Okay.
I take that back. Other than I do allow them to come drive to LEC to work out using their squad. More of a health benefit.
All right. Do you want to keep going through your list?
Sure.
Right.
So the next one, the Motorola APX next, we had some deficiencies with our radio coverage. These things came on so there's some redundancy. So if you don't have a strong enough Starcom signal, it'll revert to Wi-Fi, that the squads have a Wi-Fi router in their cars. And there's also cellular redundancy. So it'll pick up the next highest signal strength and transmit and receive on that. So that saved us. Well, Motorola was coming in. They wanted us to put a couple Starcom towers up, knowing that this was on the horizon, to the tune of like $1 million a piece for these Starcom towers, where with this redundant system, it's eliminated the gaps. Amboy has terrible coverage. They're just going to purchase a couple of these radios to eliminate their problems. We had some big problems over in the Pawpaw area as far as coverage. Well, we had problems in the courthouses, courthouse communicating out to LEC. So this eliminated everything. So we're on the last step of buying these last few radios. We broke it up over a period of 3 years.
Sheriff, a question, with all of the radio technology, all of that type of thing is commonly an issue with every sheriff's department across every county. Has there ever been an effort to try to bring a group of sheriffs or group of counties together to try to working with a group like Motorola, get some sort of a volume discount on this type of equipment, or is it just so much difference from county to county in terms of the equipment that's required that it wouldn't work?
I would say when they brought about Starcom, probably 12 years ago, that was the focal point of trying to get everybody on the same frequency and being able to utilize that. Problem is they didn't build up the infrastructure. So, and I think the guarantee at that time was like 95% coverage from a squad mobile radio, not a portable radio, a squad mobile radio. So there was still 5% of an area out there that wouldn't be covered that Motorola had as a window. So, but you know, a lot of agencies are coming on to Starcom. You know, obviously Lee County Sheriff's Office did a number of years ago. City of Dixon is coming on to Starcom, I believe next fiscal year. They fortunately for them, they were able to get a grant for some of these radios.
But getting multiple counties to work together to get some sort of a group discount, like you do in medical insurance, you know, you have a bigger pool, you hopefully get a better rate. Is that something that's ever been investigated?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So the Sheriff's Association, would that be an area where sheriffs get together and talk about things like that? And is there?
It's possible, but then that's probably going to cut into Motorola's bottom dime. So I don't know how they're going to work on that deal.
I'm not concerned about Motorola's.
I know, I am not either. They're
I would say Motorola has 80% of the US market. And as a former employee, I'm going to tell you, they will not give you a discount if they own the market. Yeah, I mean, satellite's going to be out there. But again, they're going to be part of it too. So, and I mean, the radios, you look at a Kenwood or you look at a Hiawatha radio versus a Motorola radio, and yes, I'm biased. There's a huge difference. Motorola's got the best product and they know it.
Paul wants to weigh in on the IT stuff.
I like to weigh in on the radio. The radios that they've been using and deploying in batches over the last year or two are great. And they don't rely necessarily on building out a bunch of additional infrastructure. They're relying on existing cellular service, and not just one cellular service. It'll grab a number of different vendors, and in that regard is far superior than any of the satellite systems out there too. So there's not a location that they've used those radios, I think, where they haven't been able to get a signal in the county. And even their old radio system that had little towers inside new courts couldn't talk to each other sometimes. So these radios have been really, really good. And in terms of, I think if like forming a co-op or a purchasing agreement, with Motorola, I know in Winnebago County, they partner with Winnebago County partners with the City of Rockford Police Department on certain initiatives, but they're almost always tied into not only with the radios, but their 911 centers. So then you have that to deal with if you're going to go, cross county, and everybody has different slightly different solutions for their 911 center. And while I'm up here, I just want to tag, if, for me on this earlier request for the accurate controls information, the big mount, that's got to be done. There's nothing I can do to fix some of the equipment other than that toilet piece he's talking about, which I've actually saved about 3 times now. So that big ask needs to be dealt with. If you got the money to do it this year, do it this year. If you have to wait till next year, then schedule it next year. But that one needs to be done. But on the radio thing, the system's been working well. You may not like the price, but again, we're not helping subsidize additional towers being built out in the region either. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Anything else you want to cover, Clay?
The patrol rifles, we were just trying to get a standard platform. We broke that out over a number of years. This is the last year, so we will be up to snuff. The Motorola Starcom Consulate that's down at the 911 center that we own apparently it's at end of life. We've been having some issues, so hopefully we can limp that along here until next fiscal year. That's definitely needed. And then the replacement of the mobile radio and the EMA truck is also at the end of the useful life. That was purchased when Starcom first came on board by former director Kevin Lally. So we've got a lot of use out of that one.
Okay. Any questions for Clay? All righty. Thanks, Clay. Next on the list, well, it's the IT stuff. Paul, do you want to?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I have an ask of, well, I don't know if it all made it up there. Reed, did you get my latest $10,000 request to round it up?
No, but here.
That's okay. I have an ask of $100,000. It may be 90 right there. A few years ago, we kind of came to an agreement to spend about $20,000 on replacement of computers for those departments that didn't have pass-through money or technology funds, and that was $20,000 a year. But the price of computers is going up, so I'm asking for the next year $25,000 to keep current with the recycle or replacement policy for those departments that don't have the ability to pay directly out of some type of automation fund and the like. And then we have some other servers, on-premises servers that will need to be replaced. They should have been replaced this year, but I deferred it about another $25,000. And then our infrastructure as a service server array will need some upgrades in the order of $20,000 to $25,000. And then $10,000 for some monitors in addition to the 25 as we replace computers. A lot of these monitors are close to 10 years old. I was able to reuse them, but many of them are beginning to fail now, and I need to replace those. And then we have $15,000 for battery backup replacements and/or UPS protections. And this speaks to the electrical concerns that I have in both the LEC and the new courts. Even though we have a full building generator in the LEC, and Eric and his couple predecessors have worked with me on it, and Eric is actively working on trying to identify why we have occasional power problems at the LEC that actually damages equipment, whether they be gate controllers or PCs. Fortunately, I've been able to head off some of the damage at the LEC with battery backups and specialized surge protectors on devices. But just this year alone at the LEC, I think I've lost 5 battery backup and/or surge protectors on the order of $600 to $700. And so that's just since January. And then in new courts, I've lost $2,500 worth of equipment to when the generator kicks in that building, it actually damages equipment. So it's called it surges when it kicks in. And when we have these little power sags downtown here, and it goes 1, 2, 3, we get 1 surge, 2nd surge, 3rd surge. And then I get 2 or 3 calls from the circuit clerk's office or the public defender saying, hey, our computers won't start up. And that's because the battery backup or surge protectors have been toasted. And then we had a $1,100 one get toasted that was protecting some servers outside of Amy's office in this past March. So I have to replace the batteries and/or the units themselves regularly, spending anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 per year on it. So when you're considering a generator for new courts, take a look at the longevity of a generator would be in place there, as opposed to the $10,000 to $20,000 or $25,000 a year on failing equipment because of the generator toasting the equipment. In a 10-year period, that's $250,000. So I'd ask you to seriously consider not only Clay's concern for the accurate control upgrade, but any requests that Eric may have for generator upgrade at new courts, either one that'll fully protect new courts or one that'll just replace the unit in there now and won't damage equipment every time that it turns on. Did you have any questions for me?
Yeah, Paul, what's the number of computers a year you're replacing for 25,000?
Well, right now that'll be about 25. Well, actually 20 plus sometimes there's additional monitors or an indoor surge protectors or adapters.
So how many years do you generally try to get?
My replacement cycle is 4 to 5 years. When I came here, there were computers that were in place 9 years old. Amy probably remembers me being very frustrated and angry pulling 9-year-old computers out of her department. Fortunately, that was the first year that she had court grants, and so we were able to pay for it there, and it didn't come out of the general budget. But not everybody's that fortunate. So I would hope for a 4-year cycle, but I've been moving to a 5-year cycle if I have to extend it. Okay. Some of the computers that I bought just 4.5 years ago, in the last 2 months, we just lost 3 of those. So they're beginning to kind of age out. Plus, as people's needs require, you can either upgrade the memory of the hard drive or buy a new computer. And with the price of memory today, it's a break even whether or not you buy a brand new computer with a little bit more memory in it or buy more memory and stick it in it and replace the drive.
It's 20 to 25.
About 20, 25, 20 really, 20.
So we have what, over 100, almost 100 computers that you're.
Well, okay, we have 400 plus devices out there because a lot of people have more than one computer, and we have a bunch of counter computers in offices that aren't directly assigned to individuals. And this speaks to an issue that was raised earlier in terms of expenses. I work in these offices all the time, Amy's office, Nancy's office, everybody's office, and these aren't people that are on the phone most of the day. They're actually interacting with people every day. And I don't know how you're going to replace people with an automation tool when they're actually hand-holding people through court cases or zoning issues or something like that. But in terms of the technology that they use, there's a lot more out there. People request it. And of all that number, though, we've probably paid for close to 225, 250. Got to remember that some of the departments, as I say, that have pass-through money or grant money or automation funds have been purchasing their own equipment. The circuit clerk's office in New Courts has been fortunate to get some grant money over the last few years for PCs and PC replacements. Both, and then in elections, the same. They have a fund that helps with that. Paul's office, we kind of split the difference depending on the project because some of his stuff has to go into software and software upgrades going into the future. So, and then the state's attorney's office piggybacks on some of the court grant money for some of their technology.
When it comes
too.
to iPads and cell phones, is that all separate from this? Or is that-
I don't deal with cell phones other than a cell phone we have in our department. I manage the telephones, like the IP-based phones here and the like, but I don't do the cell phones for any of the departments. Now, in terms of iPads, the only iPads that the IT department officially manages are the ones that the board members use. We don't have iPads regularly deployed. I think there's one or two in the judges use, but for example, when I first started here, there's courtroom technology, and then there's technology in the judge's office. And I was advised at that time, if it's in the courtroom, I don't pay for it. They have funds for that. If it's in their office, I might be able to help out with that. But in the last few years, most of the technology in the courts and in new courts have been paid through grant funds and/or IT or automation funds through Amy. As we all know right now, some of those funds that Amy helps coordinate is a little bit stressed with the Tyler upgrade right now. So she's got a little money, and just at the beginning of the meeting, I asked her, we've got a request for a PC. Can you afford this? And I have to go get quotes and run it by her. So
when it comes to cell phones,
no, I don't do cell phones.
who manages that, Jeremy?
It's by department.
Departments do.
The department heads do.
Yep.
And however many does every employee have a county cell phone?
No.
There are a few. Probably.
Yeah, and I would say there's probably less than you think. What often happens is there's employees that potentially don't sit at a desk, have to travel, and they use their personal phone for Lee County business. We provide them a stipend for their work use on their personal cell phone. So,
And when it comes to that, and this is a legal thing, if they're using their personal phones for county business, they're FOIAble.
That's
right?
correct.
Yep.
Their personal phones are FOIAble.
Any personal device,
only the data that is pertinent, but yes, someone then has to go through and determine what is pertinent or not. It would be the employee themselves that would do that initially.
And that would be, the FOIAbility would be the text or the phone calls plus any emails they have. But if somebody puts like Microsoft Outlook on their smartphone and they separate from the county, they can either wipe it or I can push a wipe to it to say wipe that device or that Outlook account on their phone. But in terms of the text and the phones, yes, that would make them FOIAble. And the biggest department with cell phone that I'm aware of right now would be the Sheriff's Department. Yep. And they're all tied in with FirstNet, the security things. So
Always comes back to you, Clay, every time.
well, actually, it's really nice in being able to get in touch with, from my team, to be able to support their team, his team, all three, all the shifts during the day, 24 hours. we don't have their radios because, he's already, begging you for those dollars. He's not going to be able to pony up money for me and my team to contact his guys. So we call him up on the phone. And those phones have been working out pretty well. But other than that, I'm only aware of a couple other cell phones that departments actually have. I'm not really called in on too many of them, so I don't know.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Okay. Did you have any
other-
questions I might
Yeah,
ask?
any other questions for Paul and his requests? All right,
Okay,
thanks, Paul, appreciate it. Next read. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Eric is up. Look at that dang list. Whew.
Sure. So yeah, on the list, we have about 6 million-ish. With like 40, I think it's 44 items on that list spread out in 5 years. We can easily spread some of these out, through 5, 10, 20 years. Just to be clear, I am that type of guy that wants to pump on the gas. And after hearing some of these numbers, it seems like I need to start pumping on the brakes into a kind of a cruise control setting that maybe it's kind of a thing that we just give out a number that you guys are okay with per year, and we just kind of figure it out from there. Just throwing an option out there, but so yeah. We have, if I can find it, second floor, Lee County Health Department flooring. It's the final stage into replacing their flooring and updating paint. I believe we had 16,000, 17,000 on it. And if Kathy wants to. Sorry, yes. 32,000.
Does anybody have questions? I just wanted to put a plug in for it because we were so grateful. We're done. Beautiful, like real clinic. So proud.
Kathy, we need you on the mic. Sorry.
We're so grateful for having the first floor done this year. The staff are so proud of it. It looks like a real clinic now. They have taken so much pride in their new space. They've spent their own money to decorate their offices. But we've, those of us on second floor have been patiently waiting for the following year when we can get new flooring and paint as well. It's going to be a lot less expensive than first floor. And I just consider it finishing the project, completing the project. The 2 floors, there's a stark difference now if you want to come take a look. But I did just want to put a plug in for that. We'd greatly appreciate finishing that project.
Okay.
So,
Thanks, Kathy.
do we have any questions on that one? I'm not sure if you want me to go through the entire list, but I can walk through some of the highlighted things that stands out to me. One being the new courts emergency generator. We currently have a generator in place that only controls a handful of emergency lighting and a handful of outlets in EMA. So if we had some sort of a natural disaster where they need to use that area, it is not going to be live. At least half of it won't. So we are trying to figure out what we're going to do with that. And the cheapest solution as of now is just to replace the existing generator, upgrade it to be able to control what is needed with EMA, IT, and emergency lightings in that building.
And this is, Eric, this is the generator that Paul's been referring to?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Number two is electrical and mechanical monitoring. You heard Paul mention a handful of times, and I get emails almost daily on hiccups, power related, throughout every single facility. And in order to combat that, I would like to throw data monitors in each facility, monitoring incoming power. And this is a one-time cost at about $15,000, and then there's it's like a $2,000 or $3,000 annual, basically subscription that Data Wrangler would monitor. It's basically a person monitoring our equipment 24/7, and we have the ability to cancel that subscription after we figure everything out. Down the list is jail systems reserve and pipe chase plumbing, and this is stuff obviously for the LEC. It can be, there can be a few interruptions between the pipe chase and controls that can wipe out, you know, $14,000, $20,000, $30,000. So I propose just to have a reserve there, just specifically set aside for the LEC. And then big ticket items are roofs that we've been talking about. Old courts were at about 600,000, and that is to replace the dome as well with new copper. You know, this number can obviously change up or down, and I'm assuming we all want it to go down. We just need to have some specialized people to come in and take a look at the dome and see what we actually can and can't do with it. And then speaking of roof talk, you know, the new courts, we have a 1984 roof and I think it was a 2006. So both of them have been leaking. Both of them have been patched. And this is across the board, really. Old courts, new courts, even the LEC is having some leaks, and it being only 7 years old, it's something that we look at we try to look at on every decent rainstorm and identify and see if we can patch, and we can continue patching until the flood comes. And I can't really, I don't have a crystal ball for that. Another one is elevator doors, the openers for new courts, and that's a mandate. If it wasn't a mandate, I wouldn't have put it up. And honestly, I can't remember when the mandate is, but I think it's within the next 2-3 years.
Eric, before we leave that roof, isn't this building considered, isn't it a historical building designated? Is there any state grants that we can?
It's in the designated historic district. It's not, you know, designated as a standalone, but there are opportunities for historic preservation grants.
Yeah.
The limitations with those sometimes can be a little bit burdensome to what we have to do, because we have to stick to specific historic preservation guidelines and code. So there's some caveats to that, which can raise the cost quite significantly. And again, those grants don't cover, you know, typically full expenses, but those are things we've talked about with the Facilities and Maintenance Committee a handful of different times.
You know, we just need, I know it's just an ongoing thing, you know, all these things, you know, we need to be looking at what can we get grants for? And I know you guys are, I'm just raising the issue. always looking.
And that's another thing that we have $6 million right now that's we know of, but this is also an evolving, it's evolving and a revolving door, but all the time. So we can combat it as much as we can with the funds that we have. Those are really the main ticket items that I see we need to definitely look into for next year.
The what? Right.
Which is why, I will put a plug in. I mean, this is why we have to probably reinstate the contingency line item, because it comes up often where there is, some damage to some facility or something that comes up as a project that we weren't planning for, we did not have in capital. And next thing you know, we're trying to mitigate that issue. So in previous years, there was a small line item in there for those contingencies. We took it out. We should probably think about putting that back in.
And
Some-
that
to some
was, if you
capacity.
remind me, Jeremy, that was like 50 or
I think
$100,000.
we had 100,000 in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What was that, Tom? Yeah, right.
And are all the government buildings insured? High deductibles?
We're dealing with an insurance claim that's going to be mostly fully covered, less our $1,000 deductible. So not too bad.
And it's like the building Eric was talking about, 600,000, and everyone's looking at that. That's the dome replacement, what have you. But the biggest thing with this building is when they tuck pointed the building, the new roof that they put up there was put over top of the limestone incorrectly. So we've got deteriorating limestone underneath this roof that we're sitting under. When this roof goes, it's not just putting a new roof on this. We got to bring in limestone restoration people to restore their limestone. There's just a lot of stuff up there. So this building, he's just trying to plan and get it out in front of you that it's going to cost a buck to get it done. There's it's not just putting a new roof on it. There's a lot of stuff up there that's got to be taken care of when we do the roof.
Well, and Eric, where is as far as the retention wall, getting the yard done?
That is not in here.
Yeah,
we
so
were
that would be
assuming it
on
was gonna
that
be done.
page one of, hey, we know that's a project that's budgeted for, or we know we're gonna need to do it. I'm accounting for it all already right here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, any of
I wasn't
these-
seeing that
Yep,
in
yep.
Eric's
Yeah.
list, but
Yeah.
yeah.
just a note on Old Court's retaining wall. I've been trying to push to get this thing done. I was hoping to go on August 1st. Obviously, that's not going to happen. I'm still waiting on permitting. But by the time we get permitting figured out, it's most likely not going to happen this year. So if we can roll that over to next year, that would be.
Yeah, I guess my philosophy on any of those, Eric, right? Because we just don't know exactly where they're gonna need to be for next year, and we can make that adjustment as we get closer to the end of the year so that we know what is still remaining, right?
So if that does roll into next year, that as a whole number, that accounts for my ask for capital, correct? Or, I mean, should I be asking for any more? Can't, you know what I mean? I'm just.
No, you don't.
That's really what it is.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think we understand that there's always that possibility of that rolling over, so.
Sure.
I think what he's asking, and I kind of helped him a little bit on that too, is, and maybe for every department head is, hey, if you had it in this year and you didn't spend it, don't expect that it just rolls over, right? You got to make sure that the finance committee knows that you're still expecting that to be an expenditure into the next year.
Right.
So that's why I think that's what you're asking Eric is, hey, does he have to formally submit this again if he's not going to use it this year?
Well, I think it needs to be recognized. I mean, we
Yes.
need, finance committee needs to be able to see that and see that.
Yeah.
You know, right. So,
In what is formally approved, that will all be detailed out because we'll be close enough to the year end that we'll know.
Right.
What
actually will.
So for
Be
example,
needed for next year.
Amy's circuit clerk project is the same bucket, right?
Right.
It's not in this list, but it's in page one, knowing that these are ongoing projects that need to be. I guess the thing for department heads, I do what I can as far as knowing, obviously it's easy for me to identify that circuit clerk project is going to move into the next year and there's going to be expenses. There are other projects that are harder for me to just tell individually whether or not that's just something for this year that we didn't spend or not. So making it very clear and as we move through the process, continuing to look at what the finance committee is looking at for capital to make sure your guys' projects are being accounted for correctly. I do as much as I can, but I don't know everything. So keep me on the ball.
Right. Any other questions for Eric in regard to his projects?
I just have one simple one. So if we do that power generation upgrade, does that eliminate the UPS from Paul's budget?
No, ma'am.
It will eliminate, not for this next year, because it would take time to get the generator in place, but it'll reduce the amount of electrical protection that I'll have to provide in new courts. And if we can ever fix some of the stuff that's going in the LEC there, because I installed 2 levels of secure or electrical power protection in new courts and at the jail. One is it's like a poor man's line conditioner, and then a UPS. If we can get the electrical problems at the LEC fixed, and if we can get the generator new one for new courts, it will reduce the costs that I spend on that line conditioner going into the UPS, which is, those are about $150 a piece now, and I have about in new courts, I probably have 15 of those deployed right now. So in the future, I won't need to replace those anymore. And if you have any other questions on it, let me know. But I would appreciate the support for at least a direct replacement of the generator that would do what the current one's doing, plus power the emergency management area fully. Thank you.
Paul, how many locations of UPSs do you have in the new courts building?
Well, in all the closets, and then the FTR room on 4th floor, and then in just outside Amy's office, we have 3. One just got replaced because it got toasted in March. And then I plan on replacing the ones in the FTR room with ones with a little bit longer runtime. When I first started here, if the power hiccup downtown, new courts would be down for 15 minutes to a half an hour while the switches rebooted. That doesn't happen anymore. Problem is, some of the areas not on the generator, those devices turn off, like the monitors in some of the courtrooms and some of the other devices. And then my team just gets dispatched to start turning it on and make sure they didn't get toasted. Fortunately, that stuff hasn't gotten toasted too much in new courts, like the wall mounted things and the things in the courtroom. But at the LEC, for some reason, the TVs there and the monitors that aren't protected by UPSs we lose 2 a year. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Okay,
Turn again.
move again. along.
So again, I want the departments to come in and make their requests and advocate for their projects. What I foresee going forward is taking this list, me and Jeremy, and I'll obviously also help from the finance committee, and doing some sort of ranking and process to identify, hey, what are the things that we can accommodate and want to accommodate? What are the things that we may need to delay for future years? Got a little rubric that, and all up for interpretation, we can always change it, but, potentially ways of grading projects to find out, hey, what is our need, right? A few things, again, the first schedule that I showed, again, overly conservative number. There's more than that probably available. But the term that we need to make sure that it is available for, not considering any potential one-time increases that we can replenish capital, right, is years, not
Right.
just one. So all things to think about. One other thing that we haven't, or well, let me say two things that we haven't really talked about that we know are potential uses of capital would be the highway facility that we are in the process of figuring out. I know we've gotten notification of grant funds, and there's always the opportunity to either get some sort of debt financing or bonding, right? But we also need to consider what potential impacts that might have on capital. And the second thing is the last few years, we've utilized capital as a way to fill a gap that we may have within our general fund budget. Now, I think we put money in there over the last few years and not actually needed to utilize it, or maybe utilize a very small amount of it. But that is also a potential use of our capital budget that we need to consider. So all just fun things, and we will all work together to whittle it down to what we can realistically do.
So the money that you don't spend, is it kind of considered a rainy day fund? Is that kind of how we consider it?
You're looking at it. I mean, that really, we don't have a rainy day fund other than beyond the capital, which we call, capital fund, it's a reserve fund. That's it.
That's really what it
And
comes down to.
the
Yeah,
way
right.
it is funded for the only way it's really funded is having revenues that exceed our expenditures. And any of that excess can then be moved over into capital at the end of the year when we know potentially what that might be. Right now, in the years where we had ARPA money, it was a little easier because, maybe it wasn't a direct expense that would have hit capital or something, but it defrayed some of our costs that we may have otherwise needed to use capital for or general fund money for, and therefore we were able to build that up, right? And so we just haven't experienced any
Without talking about the judging of that program or how the net effect to the county was that we were able to utilize those dollars and do projects. And I think Mr. Wilson would we would not have been able to be as far along. We'd be in real trouble and probably be looking at some type of capital. Well, I think we'd be going back to the taxpayer and asking for more money from the county to take care of these buildings that we were otherwise able to use under ARPA.
So we have the ability to levy for our capital fund, but because we're PTEL tax capped, that just then reduces what we were levying for out of county general. So it's like, why levy for it out in capital if you're going to then need to do a transfer out of capital to make your general fund whole? It just doesn't make any sense. And there is actually a limit to what we can have in our capital repair and replacement fund. It is defined by statute, and I believe it's 3% of our total EAV.
Yep, and we're a long ways from that.
Which would be, closer to like 30 million.
Right.
And we have 6. So Yeah.
But the discussion really, as I think about it, Reed, is that as, you talked about, we're going to be coming into revenues because of an increase of EAV in a couple of years, 3 years. The challenge for this board at that particular point in time is not going on a spending spree. And because it's going to be critical that this capital, the capital fund is going to be replenished.
Yeah.
We've drawn it down and at some point in time, you got to start putting money back into that. Because just from the nature of our finance policy, as our budget grows, that financial requirement for 60 days grows as well.
Correct.
So we have no choice but to otherwise rebuild that capital fund.
Yeah, I don't, can't go crazy when some of those new things come in. We'll still need to be very judicious, but we'll
Right.
maybe at least take a little pressure off. I mean, and another piece of that is all anticipating that potentially these projects move like we think they are. And that's, we're talking years down the line. So there could easily be things that slow them up, speed them up. That's just working on current information as we know it today.
Is there any other capital items? I'm looking at the clock. I'd kind of like to wrap up by
No,
11:30. So
I guess any additional questions from you guys about what the process is going to be like going forward? I mean, obviously Jeremy and I will reach out for your input. We will obviously be reaching out to department heads, but we will whittle it down and reconvene and talk a little bit about it in the next finance committee.
All right. Any other comments from the committee?
That would be the normal monthly finance committee that you.
Yeah.
We're not,
Right.
there's not another budget meeting like this scheduled.
No.
Correct.
Unless we would need one.
We could add one. We have certain requirements for how many days or we notify or whatever, but we could always add
Typical
one.
OMA requirements, so. But, okay.
I think we do. That's my question. Yeah, we do at 9.
Yeah, and
9
that's
a.m.
always that one that.
I think we usually
is-
cancel and just talk about it. At the finance.
Right.
But, yeah, I think we can kind of wait and see where we're at to know whether or not we need it.
This is the NAT
Okay.
meeting.
Yep, Thursday, September 17th is the regular finance committee meeting, so.
But we have the 22nd for a finance or budget wrap up.
If we need it.
If we need it, it would be at that meeting where we would discuss the idea of what the levy, if we have to raise the levy beyond the 4.99%.
Correct. Well, it would be the meeting that if we, if we needed to have any further discussion in regards to budget items moving.
I mean, I think we're, as far as whether or not we raise it above 5% or not, I think that's just a mathematical, either we do or we don't have to have a truth in taxation meeting.
Right.
We don't have to ask anybody necessarily to raise it, to allow it to be beyond that 5%, because we are only allowed for it to be beyond that 5% if it's basically because of new construction. Our limitation is our CPI adjustment, right? If we needed to raise it beyond what PTEL allows us to do, that would be going to the taxpayers and putting some sort of referendum on the election ballot to allow us to do that.
Right.
So that would be a significantly longer, we would have to know.
You'd be
well in
talking about
advance.
doing that in 2 years.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that it passes, right? So-
Right.
Anything else good for the cause? Yes, Paul.
For 5 years, been harping on the generator thing, but Clay's request for the accurate control stuff, his vendor deals with an outside vendor. That outside vendor, the manufacturer, won't be supporting his stuff much longer. So there's nothing I can do to help them out, and there's nothing that Clay's direct support vendor will be able to help them out. So I'm really asking it to at least, advance that request there, and so we can get moving on it, because I'd really hate to have even a series of minor failures or a catastrophic failure in those systems out there. So thank you.
Thanks for the comment, Paul. All right. Well, now the tough part comes. Easy stuff, everybody's requests are in, and we have a good idea where revenues projections are. Now the tough part comes is getting this all cooked down to a number that we can all live with. So anything else? Hearing none, I entertain motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Wilson. What, did I hear something? Oh, okay. Moved by Wilson, seconded by Kitson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.